Hi everyone and welcome to this video on Saturn in the 12th house in the birth chart. So I'm going to be talking all about that and what some of the strengths are and some of what the weaknesses are as well. It's really a very interesting placement and it's elusive, and it took me a while to really pin down exactly, and that such a thing is not even possible here, exactly what Saturn in the 12th house means, because the 12th house is so elusive. Saturn does help bring some practicality or materiality to 12th house matters, which are generally not material at all. So 12th house, what does this planet mean? So, 12th house, what does this house mean? Well, this is the house of dreams. Okay, this is the house of the unconscious. And by that, I don't mean the subconscious, I mean the unconscious, like even deeper than the subconscious, to the point where, from a metaphysical point of view, it's more deep than the subconscious in that it actually starts to connect with things outside the self. So the 12th house represents where the self meets the non-self. And it's like where the mind meets the non-mind. It's like where the walls come down and there's no differentiation between anything, the self and the non-self. So incidentally, Saturn represents boundary. Saturn represents the wall, the city wall, the man at the gate. It represents that. So having that in the 12th house, the house of no boundary, well, that's a very interesting juxtaposition, and which is probably the main thing that makes this such a complicated placement. So yeah, 12th house, the twilight house, the soil, the compost, of which life grows, because it's the last house and it's just before the first, when the cycle starts brand new again. So if the first house is something brand new that's happened, 12th house is the time just before that, the quiet before the expression, the quiet before the creation, the potential. And so yeah, people say about the 12th house, it is, intuitively I feel it, that with astrology and the 12 houses, and there's this idea of the cycles and the Ouroboros snake eating its own tail in infinity. I would say if there is any place in the birth in the zodiac where there is a gap in the cycle of eternal cycles and creation, then that would be the 12th house. So the 12th house is like that gap that one could escape from. A lot of people say that a lot of heavy 12th house placements could be associated with like last incarnation kind of themes. That's a whole different subject. But anyway, so Saturn in the 12th house, Saturn, the keeper at the gate, old father time, the devil, the exam invigilator, the prison warden, the city walls. Saturn in the birth chart, this really represents a place where we find it very difficult, or we have a lack of ability to access this energy wherever it's placed. Stuff that comes more easy to other people might not come so easy to you wherever you have Saturn. There could be a delay, most likely to be a delay, or if there isn't, it's like Saturn will test you and punish you, or just things are blocked. And in order to fulfill this area of life, you must go through a lot. Generally, depends on how aspected your Saturn is in your chart, but you go through a lot of turmoil and a journey in order to fulfill this karma and kind of open up this area of your life. So Saturn is really putting you to the test and is blocking you from accessing this energy easily. So you could put this in a more eloquent way. I haven't perfectly described it here, but this is just a quick rundown of what Saturn in the birth chart means. So Saturn in the 12th, you may have a hard time opening up emotionally to other people and even to yourself. Like you put a limit, a hard cap on your deep emotions, messy emotions, and you don't really want to share that, or it's difficult for you. So there's a sense that you feel like you have to hide, like deep emotions. You know, let's not forget 12th house is it's a water house. Depending on, you might have a different energy in it, but it's 12th house is water house, Pisces, Jupiter, Neptune. So those are just, they help describe the themes of the 12th house. So if you have Saturn here, then like, yeah, you're going to be finding it hard to really let down your boundary, let down your wall. Because, as I mentioned, Saturn is the wall, the boundary. Okay, it's going to put a limit on something, it's going to stop something. And 12th house is supposed to be the house of the non-boundary, where the self meets the non-self, the self meets the infinite. And if there's a boundary here, it's like it's not going to happen, or it's going to be very difficult for that to happen. So a sense that, yeah, you feel like you have to hide these things, but it's not just from other people, it's also yourself as well. So your unconscious and your subconscious, because your subconscious does come from your unconscious, but it's like all of this deep stuff. It's like you might not necessarily know what's going on with you really deep down, or you might not care, or you might have been made to feel like it doesn't matter, and you shouldn't explore that aspect of your psyche, and you should just be more practical. So this could be a theme here. This could also come with emotional resilience, emotional independence as well. So with Saturn, it's like, it's a tough energy. So it's like tough, strong. There's also a sense of responsibility. Saturn is duty. Saturn is work. So when it comes to this 12th house stuff, it's kind of like, I'm going to take care of it myself. I'm going to take care of my emotions myself, and my dreams and my fears and all of that stuff. I'm going to take care of it. I don't need to talk to anyone else about it. And you might not understand it when other people, I don't know, have deep conversations about emotions or spirituality or whatever. It might just be like just get on with it. Just, what are you talking about? Just get on with it sort of response from someone who has Saturn in the 12th house potentially. Not necessarily, it depends on it, like other stuff, but like it's kind of like a sense of work and duty, and there's a real dryness with Saturn when it comes to this 12th house stuff. So there as well, I should say, 12th house is a house of, kindness. It's kind of like universal empathy, universal connections, and if I hurt, you hurt. If the planet's hurting, I'm hurting. Picking up, like it is like a psychic house. It's an incredibly intuitive house, and it is all of those things. It's charitable, it's humanitarian, it's universal. So Saturn here, you could say, oh, it blocks that kind of stuff. Yeah, potentially, but it's also the planet of work. So it could well be that you're very responsible and very kind, and take this stuff very seriously, like kindness and stuff like that. It's just, you might show that through work and practicality, rather than like really connecting emotionally so much. With Saturn in the 12th house, there could be a sense of deep-seated discomfort sometimes with some people who have this, or it could be a restlessness, because you might find it hard to relax. And the reason for that is because 12th house is kind of the house of relaxation in a way. Okay, it's the house of dreams. Okay, so when we're asleep, we're free from the trouble of the world. Okay, we're dreaming. Altered states as well, meditation, just deep relaxation, all Neptunian stuff, escape, serenity. Jupiter as well, just things being easy, things being nice, So with Saturn here, it might be hard for you to relax. You might be finding it difficult to just chill or to just be with your own thoughts. You might find it difficult to be with your own thoughts. So you might be very busy kind of person, and like could be physically restless or just like always busy, always pottering about, always working on projects, doing stuff like because you just like you don't want to just be there with your 12th house. You don't want to be there with your unconscious, your subconscious, and you don't like the quiet potentially because when the quiet happens, the 12th house happens, and Saturn is restricting that. Or maybe you actually do like this stuff, but you find it hard anyway. Because as I'm saying with Saturn, a restriction can come from within or from without. So you might be like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for it. I don't feel comfortable with it. Or you do, but stuff from outside of yourself, other people, societal expectations, or just the way that your life is structured. It's like you don't have time for peace, and you don't have time for relaxation. You don't have time for exploring your subconscious, your unconscious. But yeah, so with the 12th house Saturn, it's like you know 12th house is associated with, it's the house really of altered states, you know, because it's Neptunian, it's Piscean, and it's the house of dreams. So person with Saturn in the 12th house, this person might actually sometimes feel like they have to take any kind of substance or whatsoever to feel this kind of sense of serenity and peace, because it's more blocked for them than it is for other people. It could be loneliness here as well with the 12th house, because as I'm saying, where this 12th house is where the self meets the non-self, the infinite. There is a sense of independence and aloneness. So a sense of disconnection. I would say that you likely like spending a lot of time on your own with Saturn in the 12th house. I mean, Saturn does show that what we find difficult, but it also shows that we're often serious about as well. So serious about seclusion. 12th house does represent themes of seclusion, physically, mentally, just being on your own. So it could be that this person finds this difficult. It could be that I don't know. I just feel like with 12th house Saturn, there probably will be a lot of time spent alone. It's not necessarily something that you innately dislike. I would say as well, like, because this can go one or two ways as well. 12th house being the house of spirituality and the divinity or connection to it with Saturn here, yeah, it could be blocked and you might just not feel it. And you might be like, I'm 100% atheist, materialist. There's nothing out there that we can't see, hear, feel, whatever, can't be recorded on a piece of paper or on a computer. And there's nothing there, and so there could be a very materialistic view there, you know, like we are just walking computers sort of thing. That might well be that, like biological computers, that might well be like something that Saturn 12th house person would say, because they don't feel, they don't have, well, I know they do have it, everybody has it, but they don't feel easily any kind of spirituality, sense of divinity, or higher power or higher purpose. It's something more difficult, but I actually think this is something that they're slightly more inclined to study, or if they are interested in it, it's like they'll put it to the test, you know, and they'll work hard at almost like reading books or studying, or trying to be very like with like empirical observation and stuff like that. So they probably remain a skeptic, but also at the same time, there's probably something where they're like, oh, I kind of want to check some of this stuff out, like. So yeah, with Saturn as well, Saturn is a teacher, so it could be that this person is deeply spiritual, but it's like there could be clinical about it, or there could be teaching about it as well, or it could take them a long time to arrive to these beliefs that they have as well. Saturn represents longevity and old age. So I would say, yeah, it's like with Saturn in the 12th house, this person really, yeah, it's kind of like they're like, I don't want to get caught up in subconscious, unconscious stuff. I don't want to be bothered. I don't care about spiritual stuff. And if I am confronted with these themes, I want to be like super organized, super working hard at it, and super making sense of things, and super structured as well, and you kind of regimented, because there's a kind of Saturn is kind of associated with being regimented. So yeah, that's just kind of what I think. So there's a lot of ways to interpret Saturn in the 12th house. As I'm saying, it is elusive and it is almost contradictory to have this. It is, but it's not. 12th house being the house of non-boundary, and then you just went and put a boundary in there with Saturn. I'm like, how does that play out? So it is interesting. So it can go, like I'm saying, with certain things, it can go one of two ways. So yeah, anyway, so that's about it for this video. I hope you liked it. Please leave a like, please leave a comment and subscribe, and thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.